Hey, it's Chad Tatro and Eric Oros from BlackBerry Developer Relations. And next we're going to look at how you can deploy your WebWorks application to a simulator or a real device. Let's start by enabling development mode. Before you're able to load BlackBerry 10 applications or bar files onto a device, you'll need to ensure that it's in development mode. To do this, from the BlackBerry 10 home screen, swipe down from the top bezel. This will display the main system menu. Next, open up the Settings application and navigate to Security and Privacy, select Development Mode, and ensure that Development Mode is enabled. In order to deploy applications to a BlackBerry 10 device, you'll first need to know the IP address of the device. By default, when you enable Development Mode, the USB IP address will be set to 169.254.0.1. This means that if your device is plugged into your computer via USB, you can actually deploy your application over the USB connection using that IP address. You can also modify the default IP address from the development mode screen in the device's settings. Alternatively, you can also deploy over Wi-Fi. To do so, you'll need to ensure that your Wi-Fi is turned on and connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot. This Wi-Fi hotspot will need to be the same as the computer that you're deploying the application from. Once Wi-Fi is connected, you can find the IPv4 address of your device within the settings, under the network category of the About screen. Next, we'll look at the difference between using debug tokens or signing your application. Whether you choose to use debug tokens or code signing comes down to your specific needs. If you're deploying to the BlackBerry 10 simulator, you can deploy any bar file, signed, unsigned, or using debug tokens. Basically, as long as it's a valid bar file, regardless of which approach you take, you should be able to deploy your application to the BlackBerry 10 simulator. This is because the BlackBerry 10 simulator is less restrictive than a physical device and allows for some security leniencies. If you're deploying to a physical BlackBerry 10 device, you'll either need to leverage debug tokens or code signing. It's one or the other depending on your needs. Debug tokens come in handy if you're sharing a bar file with others and you want to explicitly specify which devices the bar file can be loaded onto, or you do not have a constant internet connection. With debug tokens, you can use a WebWorks SDK to create a token and upload that to the BlackBerry 10 device. You associate the same token with your application, meaning that your application can only be deployed to devices that have your token installed. You require an internet connection when creating the initial token, but not for any subsequent packaging or deployment. It's good to note that debug tokens expire after 30 days, and new ones will have to be generated. The alternative is to simply sign your bar file. For this, you must have installed BlackBerry code signing keys to your PC. You can sign your bar file during the packaging process, and once signed, that bar file can be deployed to any BlackBerry 10 device. With this approach, you do require an internet connection every time you make a signing request. However, you do not have to do anything with debug tokens. Generally, if you have a valid internet connection, signing your bar file is fairly quick while still allowing you to debug your application. We've discussed how to obtain the IP address of the simulator or physical device, and also what conditions need to be met in order to deploy a bar file to either. Next, we'll look at the various options for deploying the bar file.
The first approach we'll discuss is deploying a bar file through the command line tools, invoking WebWorks SDK scripts directly. The first step is to open a console and navigate to the root folder of your BlackBerry 10 WebWorks SDK. From there, you'll want to navigate to the Dependencies, Tools, Bin subfolder of the SDK. For simplicity, it is easiest to also copy or move your bar files into this bin folder. Next, you'll want to execute the BlackBerry deploy command with the install app parameter. You'll need to pass the device password and IP address along with the path to your bar file. Of course, you'll want to use the name of your own bar file in the command. Some people prefer working from the command line, while others prefer to have a nice graphical interface. If you're already using Ripple for packaging your application, you can continue to use it to deploy to the BlackBerry simulator or a physical device using debug tokens. In the build panel of Ripple, we'll find everything we need in order to package and deploy an HTML5 application. The first step is to ensure that you have started the build and deploy services and that the command prompt window is open. Next, you'll need to configure your package settings, and finally, you'll click the package and launch command to begin the deployment process. Let's take a closer look at the settings dialog. In terms of the build configuration, nothing much changes, and you still provide a path to the SDK, project, and other values you normally would. It is important to note that the sign configuration does not apply since we are using the package and launch functionality of Ripple. Package and launch does not include signing, so the values here will be simply ignored. If you are deploying to a simulator, this won't have any impact. However, if you intend to deploy to a BlackBerry 10 device, this means that you will need to rely on debug tokens. Specifically, your debug token must be named debugtoken.bar, and it must exist at the root folder of your SDK. When you execute package and launch, the debug token will be automatically used in the generation of your bar file, and that bar file can then be deployed to a physical device, assuming the debug token has been installed to that device as well. Finally, in your settings dialog, you will need to configure the launch fields. For the target, you will need to select either simulator or device. The device IP should match the IP address of your target, and the device password is required if you are deploying to a physical BlackBerry 10 device. Once you've completed this configuration, you can click the X in the top right corner to close the settings dialog, and then run the package and launch command from Ripple. The PlayBook App Manager is a great way to deploy bar files that have already been packaged for BlackBerry 10. It provides a simple drag and drop interface for deployment. This tool was developed by George J. and is distributed for free as a Google Chrome extension. Note that this is an unofficial community extension, but is still a great tool nonetheless. For more information, please visit the PlayBook App Manager page on gridbook.org.